So I know like this topic has been talked about a lot already with like a lot of different creators. Um, but I promise it's gonna be worthwhile. The reason why is because the techniques that I use are going to be a little bit different. I feel like these work for me, so I wanted to share them with y'all. So these techniques will especially work for people who may have PTSD or CPTSD. With PTSD, this is from like a serious accident, physical assaults, um, abuse as well. So the thing about it is with CPTSD or even PTSD, um, there's a possibility that if you had like a history of maybe anxiety or depression, and even with the events that you were going through, the traumatic events, if you did not receive a proper amount of support during that time, it could then lead into PTSD or CPTSD. So like I said, these grounding techniques you could help. Now, how does like PTSD or CPTSD develop? So one of the first things would be like flashbacks or memories of the past. And I'll tell you how those flashbacks or memories could happen. It could even come from someone maybe bringing up the traumatic event that you went through. And a lot of people don't realize that this isn't helpful because it doesn't allow you to appropriately process what you went through and actually move past what happened, right? Another thing that could develop PTSD or CPTSD is extremely high levels of the stress hormone, which is around your fight or flight reaction, right? The thing about it is, that kind of continues at high levels even after the traumatic event or the stressful event has resolved or has happened. And the thing about it is, people who have these types of experiences or maybe have been diagnosed with PTSD or CPTSD, they have some, I wouldn't say issues, but maybe like a little bit of differences with their hippocampus. The hippocampus relates to like your emotions and hold on, what else? Okay, yeah, your emotions and your memory. And again, with this hippocampus, it can, with this part in the brain, it can prevent you from properly processing those flashbacks and moving from them. That's why, like, someone may be bringing up something that isn't even applying to the present moment could also be traumatic in itself because it creates like a flashback memory where you're not, it doesn't help you to appropriately move past what happened because that person is continuously probably bringing it up, right? Now, there's a difference if someone is doing something that you both have had a conversation about already and you're bringing up, okay, you did this and we talked about this, that's different. But as far as like bringing up like a traumatic event or something that somebody went through and bring it up in the present moment where it no longer applies, again, that is something that can impact your brain, your hippocampus, which is responsible for your emotions and your memory. So let's talk about how to ground. Now, in my previous video where I said mastering your energy, I talked a little bit about the air element, which is about mental clarity, about communication. And in that, I also spoke to you guys about how there are certain things that could be that could happen in your environment that could impact that air energy, whatever it is in your chart. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is that things like gossip, smear campaigns, or again, if someone is bringing up something from the past that no longer pertains to the present moment, that's communication. That's air energy, right? That's bringing something, that's creating a flashback that is unnecessary, right? Which then impacts, again, your hippocampus, your emotions, and your memory and your ability to move forward from the event. So the reason I'm bringing up the air energy for a reason is because take a look at where that air energy is in your chart, okay? Let me make this very clear. I know about astrology, but I'm not like a super expert. Like I have other people that I look to at times to give me information about astrology because they're well versed in it than I am. Okay. However, when it comes to me and my experience, I know a lot about that air energy as it relates to my chart. So I wanted to share that with y'all. Okay. So like I said, take a look at where the air energy is in your chart. And the reason I'm saying this is because again, air, you can't see it. So when you think of air for your body, now aside from communication or mental clarity, you think of breathing. Okay. So if you are in a situation where you feel like you need to ground yourself because of external things that could be occurring, take a moment to remember where that air is in your chart, or how that air relates to you, and be aware of how that breathing technique can actually help you. So y'all remember in the Mastering Your Energy video, I gave the example of Libra moon, right? So if you are faced with a person who's maybe bringing up something traumatic from the past for no reason, it has nothing to do with the current moment, right? And if you have that air in your moon, your emotions, utilizing the breathing technique is going to make sure to keep you emotionally balanced through that type of communication with that person, right? But let's say if maybe you have air somewhere else, like maybe I forgot which planet it is. I don't know if it's Mercury or Mars. I think it's Mars. I think Mars is not necessarily a conflict planet. I wouldn't call it a conflict planet, but anyways, but in that type of planet, again, breathing technique, taking a moment to pause, think, right? Taking a moment to pause and think about what you're going to say before you say it, right? Depending on what type of air planet you have, air element that you have in that planet. Okay. So again, take a look at where the air is in your chart. So let's say if you have a air sun is the ego, right? Again, that breathing technique is going to help you to not always maybe respond to what they're doing from your ego, and allow you to appropriately process that moment or whatnot, to the point where you're able to allow yourself to move forward from it, and not allow yourself to let that person get the type of rise out of you they want to. Okay. But I'm gonna come back to that rise part. But anyways, now I will say that at times, you may be in spaces or work environments, or maybe even a family dynamic where something traumatic you went through could be brought up as a means to monitor how you're going to respond to it. Okay. So that's why I said that breathing technique or that breathing exercise is going to be really good. I honestly don't have like a set exercise that I do. I just make a mental note of what's happening, and then I go into my deep breathing. But if you are a beginner at the breathing technique, what you can do is inhale 4 times, take a beat for 2, hold, and then exhale, not 4 times, inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds, and then just keep doing that over and over. Okay. But for me, I don't have like a set breathing technique I do. I just make a mental note. Again, air, energy, communication, make a mental note of what I am receiving, my perspective of it, and how help and I breathe through it or whatnot. Now, another thing as well, is with this is the understanding of emotional intelligence. Be aware of as well other people's maybe their religious beliefs or things like that. I know you're probably like, what does this have to do with grounded techniques, girl? We talking about spirituality. Listen to what I'm saying though. Like, be mindful and even respectful of other people's beliefs in their religions, right? Because in some religious groups, it's actually normal for a person to bring up a traumatic event, because the goal of it is for them to see if you are healed or not, and to see or monitor how you're going to respond to it. So you may actually be, I don't know, at work, or maybe you have a family member who may be married to someone who maybe has a different religious background, and maybe they're not aware of how bringing up a past event that is irrelevant to the current time could be detrimental to a person's health, right? Because of their religious background, right? Because in some religious backgrounds, them bringing up something was traumatic, and them monitoring your response is actually something that they do to see if you've actually healed from it. okay? Because they're looking to see if you're going to respond differently to it. Again, this has a lot to do, like I said, with the breathing technique, the example that I gave. So again, emotional intelligence, just be mindful of that. And the thing about it is people are entitled to believe what they believe, right? But at no point should their beliefs impact your mental health. So then at that point, a conversation could be had, right? Take the breathing exercise in that moment, allow them to express themselves, and then appropriately say, I respect your right to believe what you believe, but personally, with my spirituality and my healing journey, me having to be faced with a traumatic event that I've actually moved forward from and healed from, and using that as a way for you to try to test me to see if I've actually healed, is not conducive to my mental health, right? Something as simple as that. Now, another one, of course, this is something a lot of people already say, is meditation, but I'm going to tell you something that I do. Meditation, staring at something, not like a TV. You can stare at the wall, you can stare at a tree, really going out in nature and just meditating with your eyes open, like maybe even staring at a tree. It really does help. And I'm going to tell y'all why. Is because it's nothing wrong with meditating with your eyes closed. But if you are in a moment where you are doing the breathing technique and you're wanting to bring yourself back down because maybe you have that adrenaline kick, or maybe there's something going on with high levels with your stress hormone, okay? That watching something moving, especially if it is nature while you're meditating, is so like relaxing, y'all, because it helps you to stay in the present moment as well, because your eyes are open. So you're also aware of where you are while you're meditating. You understand what I'm saying? You're not going off somewhere else. You're in the present moment. It also, meditating with your eyes open, will help you with staying alert. Okay, it also will help with your concentration and even with your focus when you are meditating while actually viewing something. And it doesn't have to be something that is moving, but when you are in nature, and if it is something that is moving, like a tree branch, the leaves on the tree, or some flowers that are moving, and you're watching that as it moves while you are meditating, not only are you improving, like I said, your focus and your concentration, right? But again, at the same time, you are making sure that you're staying in the present moment. And then you're reinforcing the meditation that you're doing with that breathing technique with nature, which is something that you are yourself, right? Everything is connected. So you're reinforcing that moment with something that is serene, that is natural. Okay, I also have one other point to make, is that also another way to remain grounded is also being mindful of things that could keep you on edge, right? Because again, that being on edge feeling can actually contribute to your stress hormone being high as well, and putting you into a fight or flight mode again, which is like a survival mode, right? And a way for you to remain grounded, to ground that root energy, okay, is to make sure that you can alleviate things that are meant to keep you on edge. Now, another thing, which I know y'all probably not gonna see this one coming, is chemical triggers, okay? Now, of course, the first thing people will say is like food choices, which I completely agree with, because when it comes to like remaining grounded, your food also has the ability to take you out of you being grounded as well. Like, y'all know how you eat a big meal, you might get the itis or whatnot. That could kind of impact you as well, right? So I would say like food choices. If y'all want me to, I could go more into that as well. But that's not for me to get on here preaching, making it seem like, I eat like an apple and then a smoothie and then a granola bar, and that's all I have for today. Okay, no, okay, I just make better choices, dispersed throughout my diet, and make sure that I'm doing certain things, but y'all already seen it throughout my videos. Anywho, so the other one I would say, like I said, chemical triggers, right? So would be things like, a lot of people don't know, but cigarette smoke actually can trigger anxiety. It can trigger anxiety within you. And one of the things, again, with like PTSD or CPTSD, is the fact that if you are around that in opportune moments, right, that can actually elevate whatever anxiety that you could be experiencing in that moment. Okay. And let's be clear. Let's say and here's the thing too about CPTSD. Remember, we talked about emotional regulation and relationships. These are things that are impacted, that are affected because of the CPTSD. Now, the reason why this grounding is so important, y'all, is because whether we realize it or not, we are faced with things every day in our life that has the ability to shape how we are perceived, because of experiences that we've had. Now, listen to what I'm going to give you an example, right? So let's say if you are in a workplace and you are the type of person, you actually love bringing people together. Maybe you came up with an idea that actually helped to boost morale in the office, and unfortunately that idea you had, not only your peers enjoyed the idea, there are even other managers of other departments that enjoyed that idea, right? And unfortunately, maybe a boss or something felt slighted, or maybe they felt like you low-key called them out because you had the ability to come up with an idea to boost morale. So let's say there is some work retaliation taking place, right? Now, you don't have an issue with people who smoke cigarettes, right? You respect everybody's right to do what they choose to do with their body, right? You respect everybody's right. But this boss, right, they know that you maybe don't want to be around it as a lot. So they're coming up with a way to maybe retaliate against you, okay? Again, you don't have an issue with people who smoke cigarettes. You have a coworker, Sarah, who smokes cigarettes, right? But Sarah is considerate, right? When she finishes, she comes back in, pop a little gum in her mouth and spray her little perfume, and she sits at her desk, and y'all talk every now and then. You turn back, y'all have a little comment about a funny little meme, and y'all go back to work, right? Because you don't have an issue with people who smoke cigarettes. You respect everybody's right. But this boss, right, again, not knowing maybe what you've been through in the past, again, remember, CPSD has the ability to impact emotional regulation in relationships. But this boss, them going out of their way as a means to get a rise out of you purposely at the company lunch, sits you next to Larry, who basically smokes like 3 cigarettes like every 30 minutes or whatnot. And that's an exaggeration. But basically, does that. And Larry doesn't have any consideration. Larry smokes exactly by the door of the building. Larry doesn't spray nothing. Larry smells like straight cigarettes, right? And your boss purposely sits Larry next to you at the company lunch, okay? Now, the thing about it is, because of what you've been through, and maybe your boss doesn't know that, it could appear, if you were to snap out, right, it could appear to others that you lack emotional regulation and that you have a problem with relationships and bonding with others. You understand what I'm saying? That's a twofer. That's what CPST does. It affects that emotional regulation, your relationships, and hold on, I forgot the other one, and your identity and sense of self. Okay, so that's why, like, chemical triggers is going to be important, and being aware of it, because there could be things like happening within your environment that could trigger you and you not even knowing it, right? And then people could even do certain things as a means to get a rise out of you, and them not even knowing what you've been through previously. And then when you respond to that or react to it, it could make you look a certain type of way to other people. You understand what I'm saying? When really you don't have a problem with people who smoke cigarettes, right? But your boss, because they're upset about your ability to boost morale and make your peers actually want to work together and try new things, now this person may be trying to get a rise out of you and doing something not knowing what you've been through. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why being aware of even things like that, like chemical triggers, those types of things can actually elevate your anxiety. That the cigarette smoke is what it does. It elevates your anxiety. So not for everyone, but it does, especially for people who have CPTSD. Some don't actually realize it though. So next, I wanted to also talk about knowing yourself. That's another thing, another way to ground yourself, okay? It sounds so simple, but it's true, is knowing yourself, knowing your truth, knowing what you did and what you didn't do, okay? Not allowing somebody to project onto you, okay? Because you can easily become ungrounded if you leave the door open for a person to project onto you. And then at that point, that gives them the ability to tell you who you are, right? You got to know yourself, all right? And some of the ways that you can do that is, again, the hippocampus is what? Emotions and memory. Make sure if you need to, baby, journal every day. Okay, journal every day. That way, not only are you aware of what happened and what didn't happen, but you know yourself as well. You gotta know thyself. Know who you are and who you are not. And be honest about yourself when you maybe have moments in which you may snap out on somebody. Now, this is going to lead me into my next point, okay? For me, as a spiritual person, I also know that it's deeply spiritual to let somebody know when they had you messed up. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's deeply spiritual to let somebody know when they took the wrong turn with you. That's deeply spiritual. So I'm not here coming in here acting like I'm all zen, like like I sit and in a position on the floor. I do that 24/7. I don't do this because I know I've mentioned that I don't smoke or drink and I'm celibate. So I'm not coming on here making it seem like I'm just this uppity, echelon spiritual person. No, because I also know that it's deeply spiritual to let somebody know when they made a wrong turn with you. And that's another way to actually keep you grounded too. You want to know why? Because when you keep the peace, you start a war within yourself, and then you unground it, and then you reacting to this and this and this and this and this. So if you need to, let somebody know they turned wrong with you. Ain't nothing wrong with it. And don't feel bad about it. Okay. Be aware of when you may be over or doing some type of people pleasing to try to keep the peace, but it's starting a war within you. It's deeply spiritual, and it's also going to ground you and validate you, because you're not looking for outside validation. Okay. Another way to validate and ground yourself is to validate your own emotions. Remember, hippocampus, emotions, and memory. Ground your own emotions and your own memory of what happened to you and your experience and your truth, knowing thyself. It's deeply spiritual to let somebody know when they made a wrong turn with you. Okay. So those are my tips on what helps me. Okay. I know they're a little different from maybe what other people have talked about, but that's what helps me. And again, sharing is caring. I just want to come and tell y'all that. Definitely subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment below if you feel like there's something else I could have said. I'm definitely open to maybe these ideas that you have on what you do to ground yourself. And like this video, and if you haven't, we at the end of the video, baby. Subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in my next video. Thanks for watching.